The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
When the time arrived for Elizabeth to have her child, she gave birth to a son. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown his great mercy toward her, and they rejoiced with her. When they came on the 8th day to circumcise the child, they were going to call him Zechariah after his father. But his mother said in reply, "No, he will be called John." But they answered her, "There is no one among your relatives who has this name." So they made signs asking his father what he wished him to be called. He asked for a tablet and wrote, "John is his name." And all were amazed. Immediately his mouth was opened, his tongue freed, and he spoke, blessing God. Then fear came upon all their neighbors, and all these matters were discussed throughout the hill country of Judea. All who heard these things took them to heart, saying, "What then will this child be?" For surely the hand of the Lord was with him. The child grew and became strong in spirit, and he was in the desert until the day of his manifestation to Israel. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
If you look at the life of Saint John the Baptist, there is one reality na nangingibabaw lagi. Bago pa siya ipinanganak, lumitaw na itong katotohanan na ito. That in the life of Saint John the Baptist, we see always the primacy of God. Ibig sabihin, ang laging nauuna at nangunguna ang Diyos. Well, we have to remember the role of John the Baptist ay napaka-espesyal dahil siya po ang naghanda ng daraanan ng Mesiyas. And yet, at the end of the day, it's always the primacy of God. Ibig sabihin, it's always God first. Paano po natin mapagninilayan ito? We look at the gospel reading for today first. Una is, in the circumcision of John the Baptist, ang gusto ng kanyang mga kapitbahay at kamag-anak, masunod yung kanilang gusto, and that is to name him Zechariah. Kaya nga, nag-react sila, wala naman kayong kamag-anak na Juan ang pangalan. Bakit nyo pangangalan ng Juan? Zacarias dapat. So para sa kanilang mga kamag-anak, sa kanilang mga kapitbahay, it's all about them following what they plan for this child. Kumbaga, ang gusto nilang masunod para sa batang ito ay ang kanilang kagustuhan at plano. But Elizabeth and Zechariah said, "No, his name is John." Anong ibig sabihin nun? Parang sinasabi nila sa kanilang mga kamag-anak at kapitbahay, hindi yung gusto ninyo o plano ninyo ang masusunod sa batang ito, kundi ang masusunod sa batang ito ay ang plano at kagustuhan ng Diyos para sa Kanya. That is the significance of the name John. At the end of the day, it's not what I want to do with my life, it's not what I plan to do with my life, but it is always allowing the will and plan of God to unfold in me, in my life. Yun ang #1 doon. And it's a good lesson for all of us. Kasi at times we struggle with this. Parang ang madalas na nasusunod sa paglalakbay natin sa buhay, sa desisyon natin, sa mga ginagawa natin araw-araw, ay yung kagustuhan natin, yung plano natin. Tatanungin ninyo si Elizabeth sa kariyas ng kanyang tatay, wala ba silang plano kay Juan? Of course meron. Mga magulang may mga plano din sa mga anak, di ba? Si Juan Bautista kaya wala din siyang kaplano-plano sa buhay? Meron din. But it's always the primacy of God. Para sa kanila, kay Elizabeth, sa Zacarias, may plano sila para sa kanilang anak. Pero ang mas importante, yung plano at kagustuhan ng Diyos sa kanya. Si Juan Bautista, may plano din siya. Marami din siya sigurong plano sa buhay. Pero para sa kanya, ang mas mahalaga ay ang plano at kagustuhan ng Diyos para sa kanya. And he allowed himself to be an instrument for the plan of God to unfold in him. Kaya nga anong nangyari after this? He became John the Baptist, we know, the precursor of the Messiah. He prepared the way of the Lord. Bakit? Hindi na yung plano at kagustuhan ng niyang personal ang sinunod niya, kundi ang plano at kagustuhan ng Diyos para sa kanya. Siguro that's the first question we should ask ourselves. In our everyday life, whose plan, whose will do we follow always, every day? Is it ours? Or is it God's? At the end of the day, it's not your will, it's not your plan, but it is always God's will and plan. Secondly, para mapagnilayan pa natin ng mas malalim, bakit may primacy of God in the life of John the Baptist? Dahil ang tawag natin kay John the Baptist as a precursor is a pointer of the Messiah. Hindi ba? Sabi nga ng Ebanghelyo, sa ating nga second reading, sabi nga niya, what do you expect me to be? I am not. I am not even worthy to unfasten the thongs of his sandals. And at the end of his ministry, John the Baptist would say, I must decrease, he must increase. Ibig sabihin, he could have pointed everyone to himself. Pero at the end of the day, sabi niya, hindi ako yun eh. Siya yun eh. So the temptation to point to himself was so great. Bakit? Popular si Juan Bautista. Many came to be baptized by him. Maraming naniwala sa kanya. And the temptation to take all the credit and to take all the limelight for himself, napakalaki yun. Pero as a pointer, he did not point to himself. He pointed to Jesus. Kaya nga, primacy pa rin ng Diyos. And that is the second lesson I think we can learn from the life of John the Baptist. The greatest tendency is that we point always to ourselves. Especially when we accomplish things, we have achieved things, we have done good things. The tendency is the pointer remains with us. And it points to us. Kumbaga, lahat na lang until sa atin lang. Pero the life of John the Baptist, it's not about you. If you have achieved this, well and good. If you have done this, well and good. But at the end of the day, it's not about you. Hindi ito tungkol sa'yo. Tungkol ito sa Diyos. And we should always point to God in all of these achievements and accomplishments that we have. Otherwise, mananatili yung credit sa atin, mananatili yung lahat ng papuri sa atin instead of that pointing to God. And so, my dear brothers and sisters, now that we celebrate the birth of John the Baptist, he too is our model. The primacy of God in our life. unang-unang paraan para mapatunayan po natin is we ask ourselves, whose will and plan do we follow or obey every day? Is it ours or is it God's? And secondly is, in all the things that we do every day, do we point to God as the real cause, the real reason why we have done this? Or do we always point to ourselves na dahil lang sa atin, nagagawa natin ang lahat ng ito?